election. So let's bring in Vanessa Newman. She's a former Venezuelan-American diplomat who served as a consultant to the State Department on Latin America. She joins us via Skype from New York. Vanessa, good to have you with us here on Al Jazeera. How significant is this temporary protected status, and what does it mean for the thousands of Venezuelans who fled their country to come to the US?
Thank you very much for having me on. It's absolutely critical, and the Venezuelan diaspora is celebrating because it represents a shift from the relationship with the Trump presidency to the relationship with the Biden presidency. Venezuela is in absolute collapse. You have something like 90% of Venezuelans within the country have food insecurity, meaning that women stand online for 10 hours just to find food to eat, and then the exodus, they have warned, from Venezuela will be the biggest migration exodus in the world. It's going to surpass Syria by the end of this year. So the fact that the State Department announced this today on the International Day of Women's Day is significant, because the women are so greatly impacted. And basically, we already will have over 7 million refugees by the end of this year. So Biden is giving the example. He has said that he will not abide by Maduro presidency. So he is giving the example that step one, you need to address the humanitarian crisis. And to be consistent, you need to protect the people who have fled this humanitarian crisis and entered the United States.
Yeah, and that's an important point you make, because according to the UN, over 4 million Venezuelans have left their country to escape poverty, hunger, brutal repression from the Maduro government. Are we likely to see many more Venezuelans try to get to the US under this Biden policy shift?
Well, we don't know. The TPS permission is very, very clear that it is temporary protected status, applies to the people who are here in the United States, and this is their main residence. So it takes them from being illegal to being legal, basically. So these are people who have entered the United States, are here already, are trying to work. They can't work. They were in this diplomatic limbo. The other issue with Venezuela is that the Maduro regime has blocked the issuance of passports. So that is also an electoral ploy. So there's an electoral ploy on both sides here, that the Maduro regime doesn't want the Venezuelan diaspora to be able to vote or exercise its citizenship rights. And the only way they give you a passport is basically they behave like an organized criminal organization. You have to bribe them, and it's thousands of dollars.
Okay.
So this protects two things. It allows also, by granting these citizens, these Venezuelans, it gives them a country. They have been made stateless by Maduro, and the U.S. is taking them in. And one day, if they become U.S. citizens, they will also definitely become U.S. voters, and they won't forget this thank you to Biden.
Yeah. Just a final thought to you, Vanessa. What does all of this mean in terms of how the Biden administration will shape its policy on Venezuela going forward? Will it be looking for regime change, something that the Trump administration failed to achieve?
Right. Well, they are looking definitely for an end to the dictatorship in Venezuela. They are definitely looking, and they have made this very clear. They're not dropping the sanctions. They are looking, however, for a political solution. They are not. The rhetoric coming out of the Biden administration, and we knew this from even before the swearing in, from what they had said in the campaign, and from the nominees that have since become, that have formed Biden's cabinet, that they are going to put a lot of pressure for the parties to come together to have a negotiated solution, and for the international community to ramp up the pressure for a negotiated solution to get to free and fair elections. The Biden path to democracy in Venezuela, which is a form of regime change, let's be clear, because we're changing from a dictatorship, is through free and fair elections. So the Maduro regime, if they want their sanctions dropped, have to agree to these elections and international observers.
Vanessa Newman, really good to get your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed for talking to Al Jazeera. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.